Theresa May, let's see what she's saying in this statement on Robert Mugabe's resignation. The resignation of Robert Mugabe provides Zimbabwe with an opportunity to forge a new path free of the oppression that characterized his rule. In recent days, we have seen the desire of the Zimbabwean people for free and fair elections and the opportunity to rebuild the country's economy under a legitimate government. As Zimbabwe's oldest friend, we will do all we can to support this, working with our international and regional partners to help the country achieve the brighter future it so deserves. So that statement out from Theresa May. We're also hearing more about the letter that Robert Mugabe wrote to lawmakers saying that he was doing this resignation voluntarily. He wanted a peaceful, non-violent transition, and we've seen no violence and today complete euphoria. Back to you, Peter.
Thanks, Francis. Yeah, historic scenes, the flag of Zimbabwe being hoisted high by many of the celebrants. That's all we can call it at this time. But there's a man here who's talking to us, and he's saying, let's watch, enjoy the moment, but be careful, because perhaps what lies ahead may not be as merry as the images that we're seeing now. But Zimbabwe is not the same as it was in 1980, 1990 and 2000. These people here have been given an opportunity to march. They have been given an opportunity to express themselves. It'll be difficult for anyone who takes over now to try and rein that in.
It will not be, Peter, because they've allowed Zimbabweans to demonstrate, to walk to State House, to say everything they've wanted, because their interests coincide with the interests of the ordinary Zimbabwean. There is an unease coalition of interests which is temporary in nature. Help us to get rid of Mugabe. Help us to get our house in order. When we are done with getting our house in order, we'll start asking the real questions. Where were you during the liberation struggle? Who was your commander as a guerrilla? Do you know the sound of an AK-47? If you can't answer those questions in a coherent manner, then you are not good enough to occupy the office of the president. The same generals in 2000 said, the office of the president is a straitjacket. It will not be occupied with anyone without liberation credentials. This is what this is about. And remember, throughout this process, the generals have been saying it's Operation Restore Legacy. It is not legacy of Robert Mugabe.
Let's just listen briefly to what they're saying here, and then maybe you can give us a comment on that. A bit earlier on. I guess where I'm trying to go with this is that we live in an era now where social media is present. This flag movement started at a time when there was no problem with Chiwenga, with Mnangagwa and Mugabe, but they were able to demonstrate. What you're suggesting is that ZANU PF, the military, the police will use force if they need to rein back the people who might be falling out of line. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, if your conduct is inconsistent with their objective, then you're an enemy of the state and you'll be met as such. Zimbabwe is the only constitution that I know that is a clause that has a relationship of the intellectual and ideological approach of the president to the liberation movement. And what that means is that I was born after independence. I could not have participated in the war of liberation, but as the clause stands now, I could potentially be excluded because I can't, because I don't have a relationship with the liberation movement. What then that says, as far as a generation that is born after independence, is that if you don't belong to a party of revolution, then you don't have the necessary values of liberation politics for you to occupy the office of the president. So I'm saying, let's pop the champagne while it lasts. But before the sun rises, let's wake up to what exactly has happened, because this is a coup. And even for that matter, for the region, what is the effect of this on Swaziland and Angola in particular? And if SADC allows this kind of political transition to happen, what are we saying around the rest of the SADC?
But the president has resigned.
The president has resigned in consequence of what? The president has not resigned in consequence of popular struggle. Zimbabweans, at least until 1996, from 1996, at least when I was politically conscious, there could have very well have been some developments from 1980, have been on the streets. The history of the student movement in Zimbabwe.
All right. We just have to pause for again. We're going to cross Francis. I think you're monitoring the situation on the streets in Johannesburg.
Yeah, we have several reporters on the ground in Harare, so let's go.